The emphasis for Algebra 1, Chapter 2, Section 1, and basically all of Chapter 2 is going to be about solving. Up until now, we haven't solved anything. We've just been practicing some basic fundamental things in algebra, like how to evaluate and how to simplify certain things. Now we're going to get to be solving, and that means we're going to be introducing the equal sign. And the equal sign with a variable on one side and numbers on the other, and numbers attached to variables on that one side. So we're going to be using some properties and some skills in algebra to solve for a variable. Okay, so in 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, we were given problems like figuring out 3 plus 5, or what is 7 plus 2. And lately I've been putting x attached to a lot of things because I've been trying to introduce this concept of having x represent what is, or asking a question. What is negative 3 plus 5? That's what that means. That x value is a question of what is this answer? What is 2 times the quantity 4 minus 15? We've been practicing kind of translating and seeing how that works to convert from words to symbols. Now in algebra, what we're looking at is we're combining and meshing variables and numbers together on the same side. And we're trying to figure out the question of, now 8 is 2 times the quantity of what number minus 15? So basically it's a way of us knowing the end result, okay, knowing the answer, but trying to look up part of the question. So now the variable is attached to and, like I said, meshed up with all of this stuff on the right side. And we have to figure out a way to figure out what x is instead of just guessing and checking. This problem you could probably guess and check. You could go, okay, so let's say I put 10 in. 10 minus 15 is negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Okay, what about I put 15 in? 15 minus 15 is 0 times 2 is 0. So I'm getting closer, so I keep increasing my value for x. What about 20? 20 minus 15 is 5 times 2 is 10. That's closer to 8. Maybe go one lower. 19. 19 minus 15 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. The answer is 19. Well, what we're going to do is practice how to solve these equations. And so this is how you write algebra problems. First write the problem as an English sentence, then find the missing variable by guess and check. So right now we're not doing anything with algebra, the properties or structure of it, we're just guess and checking. So x plus 18 equals negative 6. In order to turn this into an English sentence, x needs to turn into what is, and equals needs to turn into is. So, or I should say x is just what. There should be no is attached to it. So number 1 is, what plus 18 is negative 6? Number 2 is 22 equals 14 plus x. And I'll actually write this one out for you. This one is 22 is 14 plus what number? Number 3 is x divided by 15 equals 5. A lot of people will look at that and they will think the answer is 3. That's not true, because it's asking what number, oops, what number divided by 15 is 5. So the question is, there's going to be a big number and you divide it by 15, it's going to make it a smaller number. The answer actually is 75, I believe. The next one, it's 2 times the quantity x plus 5 equals 24. In English, it's 2 times the quantity x, or of what number, plus 5 is 24. Okay. So 2 times what number is 14? 2x equals 14. Figure out what that is. I guess we'll check. 5 is 85 divided by what number? So I should put an X there. The sum of 14 and what number? Sum means addition. Is 25. 5 times the quantity, when we talk about quantity, of what number minus 1 is 25. Alright. 2/3 of what number minus 45 is the same as the same unknown number plus negative 33. The first one, most people could figure out that's 7. The second one, after a little practice, they could figure out that one is 17. The next one, okay, good one to do, it's 9. This one, 6. But this one, not a lot of people are going to be able to do this in their heads. The ones that can, that's great. But we need a method to solve more complex problems like this one. Because there could be a story problem in real life to model this, and somebody needs to figure out what this is quickly and efficiently. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have properties of solving equations. So we're going to simplify problems like number 5 by doing them one step at a time. So here's how you're going to do it. Always get the variable by itself. So the answer should always be at the bottom, x equals 5, or negative 3 over 2 equals x. Those are just random guess numbers. I mean, they don't have to be 5 every time. They don't have to be negative 3 over 2. They could be any number possible. But the x should be on the right side or the left side. It doesn't matter. And also make sure you circle your answer once you find it. Get rid of everything attached to the variable using the inverse operation. Inverse of subtraction is addition. Inverse of addition is subtraction. Inverse of division is multiplying, and inverse of multiplying is division. Always balance the equation. An equal sign or a balance, it's like a scale. Equations have two sides that just like a scale has two sides, or a teeter-totter. Okay, a perfectly balanced teeter-totter. If you change the weight on one side of a teeter-totter, you have to change the weight on the other side of the teeter-totter, or it'll tip, and you don't have an equal amount on each side anymore. And of course, always show your work. If you have to divide to solve, show that by writing the division bar. The process here is more important than the result. Most of the people that start learning about algebra don't understand that it's very, very process oriented at the beginning. You have to learn the structure of it, and if you do, the stuff the rest of the way from Algebra 1 to Geometry to Algebra 2 to Calculus is so much easier for you if you just get the process down. Okay, so we're going to solve a problem like this. The question is, what number minus 3 is negative 8? A lot of people could figure this out. It would be negative 5. We're going to solve this by algebra. So the first thing is, think of like a balance scale or a teeter-totter. On one side you have x minus 3, on the other side you have 8. This should be negative 8. So the first thing to do is figure out how to get the variable by itself. It's a number minus 3, so what you're going to do is inverse operations. You're going to add 3 to that side with x, because you're going to cancel out the 3's. Now when you do that, what you have to do is you have to add 3 to the other side of the teeter-totter. Otherwise, if you only added 3 to one side, it's not an equal sign anymore. It would be a not equal to sign. So you got to keep it balanced. You got to keep it equal by adding 3 to both sides. On your paper, here's what it's going to look like. First you write the problem, then you add 3 to each side. You're going to show your work by putting a plus 3 below the minus 3 and below the number on the other side of the equal sign. And so it's going to be canceling out the 3's, because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to isolate the variable or get the variable by itself. And then simplify. Negative 8 plus 3. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. So there's our answer. X is negative 5. So you try this one. Negative 18 equals 6 plus W. Is it A, negative 4, B, negative 14, C, 4, and D, 14? Please remember that the process is more important. Page 77, 1 through 9 are problems similar to that one. Okay, now let's solve x plus 5 equals 6. We're going to solve this by subtraction. So we have our teeter-totter. On the left side we have x plus 5. On the right side we have 6. So we're going to get rid of that 5 and get the variable by itself by inverse operations. It was add, so you're going to subtract. What you do to one side, you do to the other to balance out the equation. So on paper, you're going to have x plus 5 equals 6, and then showing your work by minus 5 on each side. You have to show that work. You can't just write the answer. And then cancel out the 5's. You have x equals 1. Next problem. 2/3 plus y equals 1/4. Or 2/3 plus what number is a quarter? Is it A, 3/7, B, negative 3/7, C, negative 5/12, or D, negative 1? For more problems like that, you're going to go to page 77 and do 10 through 18. Example 4, solving equations by multiplying. You're going to solve r divided by negative 4 equals negative 10.4. Basically, it's asking what number divided by negative 4 is negative 10.4. So here's another concept of balance. You have two weigh scales, and if they're the same, it stays exactly flat. If they're different, one will be tilted. So r over negative 4 on one side, negative 10.4 on the other. The opposite of division is multiplication, so you would multiply the left side by negative 4, not positive 4, but negative 4. Why? Because a negative times a negative is a positive, and so we want r to be positive by itself. What we do to one side, we do to the other, so we're going to multiply the other side by negative 4. So we have to figure out what negative 10.4 times negative 4 is, and that will reveal the answer to us. We also need to, and I forgot to do this, cross out the negative 4's, because those will cancel and just be left with r. Next problem, or actually you try, what number divided by negative 5 is negative 20? And it's not 4. It's either A, 100, B, negative 100, C, 4, or D, negative 4. Remember, it's not 4. Okay, we're on page 78, numbers 21 through 28 all. Please do those problems for more practice for problems like that. Example 5, we're going to get away from the solving to learn a little trick. We're going to still solve, but we're going to not follow one of the rules or one of the commandments that I wrote down. 3/4 times x equals 9, or 3/4 of what number is 9? On the balance scale, you have 3/4 times x on one side, you have 9 on the other. Well, we're not going to divide. Even though the opposite of multiplying is division, we're going to actually multiply, but we're going to multiply by what's called the reciprocal. Take the fraction, flip it, and when you multiply them out, those will cancel. The 3's will cancel, the 4's will cancel, you'll just be left with x. So multiplying by the reciprocal is a good way to get rid of fractions attached to the variable. What you do to one side, you do to the other, multiply those out, and that would get your answer. So you write the problem down, show your work by multiplying each side by 4/3, cross out the 3's and the 4's, multiply 9 times 4/3, which is 12, and circle your answer. Okay, solve 8/15 plus 2/5 times A. Is it A, 3 2/3, B, 2/15, C, 16/45, D, 1/1/3? For more problems like that, to solve by multiplying a reciprocal, you're going to do page 78, 29 through 40. Okay, in our last example, we're going to solve by division. So this is 4c, and that means 4 times what number is negative 96. So the question becomes an equation, which becomes a balanced scale. You have 4c on one side, you have negative 96 on the other. When you want to get rid of a problem that's multiplying, you do the inverse of multiplying, which is division. So you divide by 4 on both sides. To keep it balanced, make sure that you divide on both sides by the same amount. On your paper, it's going to be 4c equals negative 96. Showing your work, you're going to put a division bar on both sides, put a 4 below each side, and cross out the 4's, and then simplify 96 over 4, or negative 96 over 4, which is negative 24. So the question was 4 times what number? The answer is negative 24. 4 times negative 24 is 96. And that's the process of algebra, the basics of how you do algebra. So now you solve negative 8 is 5 times what number? You have to do that by getting the y by itself. Is it 40? Is it negative 1 3/5? Is it negative 40? Or is it negative 5/8? Whichever one it is, you're going to do page 78, 41 through 52 all for more practice. And that's it for solving equations by doing one step.